Hi guys! Welcome to my review of Heartless by Marissa Meyer. If you haven't read the book yet, don't worry. The first part of this review is going to be more of a non-spoilery review, so that I can just tell you what I thought about it and if you should read it or not, and you can kind of decide from there if you are interested in it. And then the second half of the video I'm going to talk about more spoilery things because for people that have read the book and I want to like discuss it, you know? I'm just going to say going into this book I was super pumped because I am a huge fan of Marissa Meyer. I love the Lunar Chronicles, it's one of my favorite series ever. And I also just love fairy tale retellings and I love Alice in Wonderland, so this was like totally up my alley and I was just so excited to read it. Anyway, let's get to the non-spoilery part of the review. So this book is basically the backstory for the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland fame. The main character, Kath, is born into a noble family in the Land of Hearts, and in a very kind of Pride and Prejudice style, her mother is very desperately trying to marry her off to someone, specifically to the King of Hearts, who has taken a very special interest in her. However, Kath's real passion is baking, and she dreams of one day opening a bake shop with her friend, who's also the housemaid, Marianne. Then things get complicated when she goes to one of the king's balls and she meets a new court joker, whose name is Jess, and they begin to develop feelings for each other, which are kind of forbidden, and they kind of have to keep them quiet. That's kind of where the plot starts, and kind of everything takes off from there. Saying the whole thing about Jess is not a spoiler, it's right on the summary on the inside of the book, So first off, if you're a fan of Marissa Meyer's work and her writing style, then you'll like this. If you like fairy tale retellings, if you like Alice in Wonderland, like me, you'd probably also like this. Well, it's kind of less of a fairy tale retelling and more of a backstory to a fairy tale. Think like Wicked style. Of like, that's the backstory of the Wicked Witch of the West, this is the backstory of the Queen of Hearts. And I love reading villain backstories, it's really interesting. First I'm going to talk about the world building. I mean, it's Wonderland, so you kind of have the world built for you when you're doing a fairy tale retelling, but it's important that you take that world that you already have and change it and kind of make it your own, which I think Marissa Meyer does pretty well. And I mean, the whole thing with Wonderland is that it's the epitome of crazy and of whimsy, so that if the author changes it a bit from what Lewis Carroll had, that's fine. That's like in the spirit of Wonderland. As long as they keep the core feeling of whimsy. And I definitely got that from this book. It definitely felt very whimsical, especially in the first half when they're kind of introducing the world to you. There's talking animals and magic everywhere, and it's just treated as like a normal thing in this world, because it's Wonderland, obviously that is normal. Since Kath is like a baker, well, she's not really a baker, but she wants to be a baker. They talk a lot about food in here and it has a lot of food descriptions, especially about desserts. So if you like that kind of stuff, you'd love this. It made me hungry constantly because the descriptions of the food were just so yummy. Next I'm going to talk about the plot and kind of the pacing of the book, because the pacing was interesting in here. The first half to like 3/4 of the book felt very like whimsical and kind of introductory to the world. Like there wasn't a lot happening for the first half, and then about the last quarter, last third, things go from like 0 to 100 real fast and like take dark turns. Like, I'm gonna be honest, the middle of the book was a little bit slow. I feel like more could have happened instead of just being shoved into like the last little bit. But if you do find the middle slow, keep holding out, because the last part of the book is just so worth it. Like, honestly, I wasn't gonna do a review for this book, but then after I read the ending I was like, okay, I gotta talk about it, because that just made me very excited. And obviously I'm not gonna talk about it here because I don't want to spoil anything, but if you do want to hear me talk about the ending, because you've already read the book, just keep watching. Next I'm going to talk about the characters. Most of the characters were actually really likable, except for the ones you're not supposed to like. I liked Jess because he could have easily been written as kind of like a smooth, talking, like jerk kind of character, but it was done in a way where he was like smooth and flirty and charming, but not in like a jerk way. He was just actually like genuinely a nice person once you got to know him. Kath was interesting. She is constantly trying to defy her parents and defy the social expectations, which I really appreciate, and she's very headstrong. For the most part I liked her. There were certain things she did that made me a little bit like, okay. But for the most part she was not an annoying protagonist, so that's great. That was really not a good description of characters, but I feel like it's hard to talk about a lot of these characters without spoiling something in the book, so overall I rated this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and I would definitely recommend it to you, especially if you're a fan of the Lunar Chronicles or if you like Alice in Wonderland or fairy tale retellings. Then go ahead and pick it up. It's really good. And now I'm going to talk about the spoilery stuff, so if you don't want anything spoiled from the book because you're still planning to read it, then stop watching now. You've had your warning. Okay, so that ending though, wow. I've never really read like a true villain origin story, like one where they don't get like redeemed in the end or anything like that. But like seriously, like when I said things took a dark turn and went from 0 to 100, like everything just goes downhill from the point where Jess dies. Like it was strange, and it was like really heartbreaking almost to watch this downward spiral where you know things aren't going to get better because you know how the Alice in Wonderland story goes. But you could just see these characters just kind of destroying themselves and destroying each other, and everything just kind of like is so sad. Like Marianne getting shoved away and not being Kath's friend anymore, and just Kath blaming her for something that wasn't really her fault. Hadda spiraling into madness. Even Raven, who kind of became this really dark character. And then it was almost interesting to watch all the pieces of the Alice in Wonderland story kind of come together and how everyone kind of fits into place there. and like all these characters that you've now met, they're like, okay, I see where they come from now, I see what part they had to play in that story. Also, Jess's death was so sudden. It was one of those ones where you kind of keep going, well, he's not really dead, is he? Until like the very last page and you're like, oh, okay. Because like it was so sudden and you didn't even get, like there wasn't a goodbye scene, there wasn't like a cool death scene. It was just like he was there and then Peter chopped his head off and then he was gone. I just want to say, as soon as Marianne was introduced, I was immediately thinking, oh, is she the Marianne that like is the housekeeper for the White Rabbit in the movie? You know, when he's like running around and like, Marianne, Marianne! And I'm so glad that I called that one, because that's like just a little detail, I think, from the movies that like most people probably wouldn't have noticed, but like I've seen that movie so many times. I love Alice in Wonderland. I found Hatta really interesting because he was so different than a lot of other representations of the Mad Hatter, where he wasn't like fully crazy from the point that you met him, obviously because it's a backstory. He's actually very intelligent and witty and like calculating before everything happens, and it's really sad just to see that downward spiral where you can see him like losing his mind, and it's sad to watch. It just felt so inevitable because it's like supposed to be his fate and it was like predicted by the sisters and everything, and it's just ugh. So Kath and Jess's romance was cute and everything. The only complaint that I have is I don't know how long they were actually like together for, how long, like what the passage of time was in the book. I don't think it was that long, because to me it seems a bit strange that Kath could go from being such a nice person to suddenly like wanting to murder everyone just because he died. Like I feel like they hadn't known each other long enough for that to like affect her that much, but I guess it did. Maybe that's just me being super picky, because I'm like very picky about anything that even seems slightly like insta-love. I'm like so here for slow burn romances, and this one didn't seem like insta-love, but it definitely was not slow burn, and I feel like my suspension of disbelief was turned off for just like a second after she kind of like got all murdery. I'm like, would she really be this angry? I mean, I guess. I think it was done in a good way where you can see why she is so angry and why she's such a, like a terrible person in the original Alice in Wonderland story, and like it's a good explanation for why she would be so angry and jaded. I think her transformation into the evil Queen of Hearts was actually like very interesting and almost kind of perfect. Like that thing where she wants the rose trees cut down because she doesn't like the white roses. And I just want to say that that last line being off with his head, oh, chills. So yeah, it wasn't a perfect book, but it was really good. I'm excited to see what Marissa Meyer does next. If she's going to keep going into fairy tale retellings or she's going to kind of branch off into a different path. I'm cool with either. I do think fairy tale retellings are so common now that it might be good to like take a break from them for a while. Like the way, you know how dystopia kind of got overdone? And now no one really does a lot of dystopia anymore because they've realized that it's overdone, and now fairy tale retellings are the new thing. Because like now I feel like I could go back and read a dystopian book and it wouldn't feel like something that I've read a million times before. So I'm kind of hoping that that'll happen with fairy tale retellings, if people kind of stop doing them as much, and then the next big thing comes in, that we can go back and read these fairy tale retellings and not feel like it's a thing that's been overdone. I'm rambling on about something that has nothing to do with this, so I'm gonna stop now. So thank you guys so much for watching this review. Let me know down in the comments if you've read Heartless, what you thought of it, if you had any of the same thoughts I did, or if you disagreed with points that I had. Anyway, I'm excited because the week that this is going up, I'm on my reading week from school, so I don't have school for an entire week, and it's great. I hope you guys are having a great week, and I will see you some other time for another video. Bye! Because my world would be a wonderland. Hatta spiraling into madness. I didn't say that right. A very merry birthday to you. To me?